I've got to ask you to weigh in on the internal civil war, whatever you want to call it, that happened in advance of the Iranian strike. Our mutual friend Tucker was very outspoken against it. Trump did it anyway. He did hear people out. He met with you, he met with Bannon, he talked to Tucker. He decided to go a different way. But what do you make of, the division? Because I don't even know if it's the left. It seems more like the neocon wing of the party is very celebratory that he didn't listen to Tucker and others like Tucker. And I just don't see it like that. I mean, Tucker's got his very strong views. They're very sincerely held. And I think to his credit, he voiced them. Even though he loves Trump, he voiced them and he said, I don't agree with it. And then when he felt he went too far, he apologized to the president for the way in which he did it. Didn't cause him to abandon his views. But in any event, some on the right, I think even more than the left, are having a lot of fun with this like civil war. And you're on the so-called unofficial board of directors. So what do you make of it?
Well, I mean, if you followed my feed the last couple of weeks, I haven't engaged, and I don't do this actually, in any of the back and forth of the personal stuff. I'm like in a unique spot where I call Tucker a good friend. And I call Tucker a good friend, and I call Mark Levin a good friend. I'm actually in a unique spot. And, they obviously have the agency to do what they want to do. I've tried to take a bigger picture view, and my statements were always very clear, both privately and publicly, because you're right, I meet with the president, talked about this, and I said, I trust you 100%, Mr. President. Whatever you do, we have your back, but allow me to try to introduce one element, which is the younger voters that I represent on college campuses. They are war-weary. They don't want foreign conflict. They don't want foreign intervention. And so just please keep that in mind when you're going about this, that you won the youth vote, that we have this incredible under 30 coalition. It's my 13 years of labor and toil, and only because of you it's possible. So please, factor that in. And he did, it seems like, right? He didn't want something long, and he accomplished all of it together. And I think it was important that those of us kind of introduced some caution into the conversation, because if you don't introduce caution into the conversation, things can get wildly out of control. And I was good for my word, by the way. As soon as those strikes were launched on Saturday, and Megyn, you can attest to this on social, I had the president's back resolutely. I said, we must trust President Trump. He made the right decision. We stand with President Trump, as I said I would, and I did. But look, I think a lot of this can be healed and remedied. I did predict this. I sent out a tweet before all this. I said, look, if for those of us that do this professionally, there is no greater divide on the American right than foreign policy. It's like we're largely in agreement on immigration. We're actually really in agreement on the trans stuff. But like the greatest fault line of the conservative movement is foreign policy. And I was really worried that this was going to bring it to not catastrophic, but very unpleasant moment. Turns out I was partially right because no one has liked to see what we've seen on X the last week and a half. It's just been seeing a lot of our friends fight. It's been really kind of nasty. I've taken a different tact, which is let's just keep it about ideas. Let's also understand that there might be a third or fourth way. It doesn't have to be a binary of interventionism versus isolationism. To be perfectly honest, I tend to be very skeptical of interventionism, but President Donald Trump has really pioneered a third way, and he rejected that binary, which is no permanent wars, but violent, precise, short-lived action in America's interest. And by the way, he now has a remarkable track record for this. Megyn, think about it. It's take out Soleimani, taking out al-Baghdadi and ISIS, airstrikes in Syria, and now the strikes in Iran, none of which resulted in American troops dying, none of which resulted in permanent war. I tend to believe that a lot of the tensions are going to go down. I actually seek to be a peacemaker here. We have our upcoming Student Action Summit, which you're speaking at in July. Megyn, we're really excited. The audience can get their tickets. SAS2025.com. We'll have thousands and thousands of people there, nearly 10,000 people. And I want to try to bring unity to this movement because we have so much more together that divides us. I know that sounds so just cliche, but it's true. We have a real enemy, which is the American left. And I think we should try to introduce some new rules that we should, with great spirit and great energy, debate foreign policy, but let's stay outside of the name calling, right? I don't think that helps us at all. I think the left found some enjoyment in it, but I'm all for a unscripted, full, no holds barred rhetorical melee about what the foreign policy agenda of the American right should be. I try to stay out of it, and I think that because of that, at least our podcast was more popular than ever this week, Megyn. We were right up there, right behind the New York Times and 3 on the Apple News, because we were one of the few shows that wasn't getting into, well, I hate this person, I hate that person. We were just presenting it from a very fair, neutral, pro-Trump, pro-American perspective.
Well, I think you're right. I mean, we too don't choose sides in these wars. To me, It's very important to be able to have access to both sides and to be able to fairly present both sides' arguments and let the audience decide. But there is one side that I'm very against on anything related to President Trump, and that's the left. We are days away from what has been dubbed by some the Rio Reset, what some worry could be a threat to the U.S. dollar's global dominance in over 80 years. On July 6th, BRICS nations, that's Russia, China, India, and Iran, and some more, are expected to unveil their plans to circumvent the U.S. dollar, thus cratering, its value. Some report that they've already been laying the groundwork as their central banks have been methodically divesting from the U.S. dollar and U.S. bonds in favor of gold. How can you protect your IRA or 401k from the fallout from this landmark shift? One option is to diversify with gold from Birch Gold Group. Historically, gold has been a safe haven in times of high uncertainty, which is right now. Get a free info kit on tax-sheltered gold IRAs by texting the word MK letters to 989898. July 6th could mark a monumental shift happening among nations that control 1/3 of the world's GDP. Arm yourself with information to diversify your retirement savings. Text MK to 989898 and claim your free info kit from Birch Gold. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.